Before we get started with that, Mr. Johnson, let's have you and Ms. Wyndham to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that were important in terms of bringing you to us this morning. And then after that, we should be through the first segment of 6 minutes, and then we'll come back with an 8-minute segment, and then we'll give you an opportunity to talk about the center and some of the opportunities and some of the other things that are associated with this. Let's start with you.
Thank you. First, I'd like to say thank you for having us here, and I'm happy to be a part of sharing what we do. But I would like to just say my life first. I'm a young man from Memphis, Tennessee, the fifth of 10 boys. I was an athlete, and so growing up in North Memphis was, a tough place to grow up. But being an athlete was my outlet, and I received a scholarship to play football at Tennessee State University. And I played football there for 5 years. After finishing football, I had 2 shots with the Atlanta Falcons, and came back here and started to working with young people. And it's something that I love to do because it's just who I am, and who I am is what I do. And I'm grateful for that.
Very good. And what about you, Ms. Wyndham?
Well, I've been with the Oasis Center about 5 years. Before that, I was in the private sector in marketing. I love marketing. I love understanding what makes people respond and react. Oasis was a good fit for me because I'm basically a product of Oasis. I found them when my son was a teenager and I needed some help being a better mom. So I feel like my life experience and my skill set has been a good fit at Oasis because I can speak very passionately about the work that we do there. So my job there is to tell the stories in a way that encourages people to either pick up the phone and call us if they need us or help us out with a gift or something.
Let's start off, Mr. Johnson, by simply having you to give us some information in reference to the Oasis Center itself. You see, in other words, what is the center all about, and what are some of the things that you attempt to do, and how successful you believe that you are in doing so? And then Ms. Wyndham will also give us some additional information in reference to that, and we'll be able to sort of build around that for about this 8-minute segment.
Okay, well, first, one of the things that I do, I run a program at the Oasis Center which is entitled the REAL program, which stands for Reaching Excellence as Leaders. We are an alternative to detention. We are basically one of the only alternative that our juvenile court system refer young people that are there before their courts. Instead of some of them possibly getting detention or what have you, they refer them to us, or they may be on probation, they refer them to us. And our job is to try and redirect and try and re-inform them of some of the things that they're doing and how to change some of those things. We are more tool gatherers and or tool givers for those young people that come to see us.
And of course, Ms. Wyndham, you've been involved with the Oasis Center for quite a while, even though you've only worked there for the last 5 years. What made you first become involved with the center?
Well, quite honestly, I was just very passionate about the work they did in the city, and I'd gotten to a place in my career, had been laid off from a job during the recession, and took some time to really think about what I wanted to do. Having a child that was now grown, adult, I didn't have some of the responsibilities that a mother has full-time, so I was able to pick and choose really where I wanted to spend my professional time. I had done a lot of volunteer work with the Oasis Center, had already been involved, so finding a place to use my skills was a very natural thing for me, again, because I'm so passionate about helping young people in our city. And even though I'm not a counselor or a social worker, I feel like branding the messaging and providing information that's valuable to Nashville and beyond is vital to not only keeping Oasis healthy in a financial way, but for that work to help young people. And that's really what it's all about, is the young people that we work with.
And so both of you are deeply involved in the activities of the Oasis Center, and that this is the end of the first segment. We're coming to the end of the first segment of this show. And when we come back, we want to talk about some of the programs, I would imagine, dealing with the Oasis Center, and anything that you think might be able to help you in terms of what you do, that is, in terms of your outreach and whatever, and et cetera, and to not only do that, but to also encourage others to become involved with what you're doing. And so we're going to take this first commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. The guests are Mr. RJohnson and Ms. CWindham, and they're talking about the Oasis Center and the impact of the Oasis Center on not only the Nashville community, but upon individuals themselves. And so, Mr. Johnson, let's see if we can pick up where we left off the last time and give you an opportunity to talk about some of the some of the programs at the Oasis Center and what you're trying to do in terms of pushing the center forward.
Yeah, the program that I run, it's the only one of its kind at the Oasis Center, but we all are prevention specialists. I would say we have a number of prevention programs, but my program is the one that deals directly with the young people from the juvenile justice system. And I like to share with people what it takes to serve a young person through my program, and also what it takes if we don't serve them through a program like this and they end up having to go to a juvenile. You know, some of the statistics that we have, and it show in comparison to some of the national average, we're talking about $43,000+ a year to house a young person in one of our juvenile facilities. And what we could do with that is, with just $1,000 for a year, we can serve a young person and give them the services that they need at the Oasis Center. So I always say, if anyone wants to really help, you know, and they always say, put your money where your mouth is. These are the kind of things that we need people to understand. It doesn't take a whole lot, but we could really use their help and their assistance.
So what you're saying is that it costs $43,000 in a real sense to keep a young person detained in the system for a year.
Yes.
And you see the Oasis Center as an alternative to doing that, and you can do the same thing for less than $1,000.
Absolutely.
And I can understand that's a great bang for your bucks. And I would imagine you would understand that as a marketing person, would you not? Talk about it from that perspective.
Well, I think it's important for people to understand that young people, that anyone that's caught in the juvenile justice system or is incarceration, that's not a free ride to the taxpayer. And investing in our community, that $1,000 that Ron referred to, and $1,000 takes a young person to go through his program, what it costs us. You know, that's a much deeper investment into the community than incarceration. There's not a whole lot of options once they're incarcerated for rehabilitation and actually turning their life around. They're stuck. And through Ron's program, there's so many options that become available to them once they just get back on that right path. And that's, I really believe, is the thing that those young people need the most, is options and opportunities, because I believe they feel like that they don't have very many of those. That's why they do the things that they do that, you know, get them in trouble with the law to start with. So by building their self-esteem and their self-confidence, engaging them in the community with service learning, they create a connection back to the community, and they feel responsible and part of it. So, you know, the numbers that we see statistics with Ron's young people, well over 90% of those young people do not reoffend within the first year of their infractions and being referred to us, which is really powerful.
That's really powerful, it is.
A year may not seem like a long time to adults, but for a young person, an 18, 19-year-old, a year is a long time. And I've actually talked to several of these young people, and I'm always so impressed as to what Ron imparts on them and the directions that they end up taking. I had one young person, he was graduating high school this year, and I asked him, you know, where do you see yourself next year? And he very confidently said to me, Vanderbilt. And whether he gets into Vanderbilt or not, his mind is in the right place.
His confidence is, that's
and
right.
And that to me is key. Vanderbilt may not be the right place for him, but it makes me so happy, and I know it's very fulfilling to Ron, for them to have that kind of a goal and to be able to visualize it. I think it's essential to their growth as they continue to become healthy young adults.
Well, are all these young people assigned by the court system or whatever, and what are some of the other ways that you might have?
For the most part, most of our young people come referred by the courts, but we're not just a court-referred program. We are a parent-referred program. If a parent see that her young person is going down the wrong road and there's a cliff at the end and they want to try and save them, we ask and really encourage them to bring those young people there and sign them up. So when they sometimes call the courts and the young person doesn't have any type of charge, the courts will just tell them to go ahead and call. So we're not just a juvenile referral program. we are basically ready and open and willing to embrace the community to try and be a big part in helping make that change with those young people that we serve.
Is this a residence program as well, or is it one where students go home at night, or how do you house them anywhere, or what?
This program, the real program, is not a resident program. We meet 3 days a week. We meet Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday from 5:30 to 7:30, and we teach and train and encourage our young people from the aspects of music, the anger management, trauma-informed care, identity, a mirror project, all the things that make them own what it is that they do, own who they are, and own all of the decisions they find themselves in simply because of the choices they've made.
Now, where are you located, Ms. Wyndham?
We're on Charlotte Avenue, 1704 Charlotte Avenue, right about 2 blocks from downtown Nashville, right on a bus line, very easy access to anybody that wants to come to the center.
And so this has been, now how long has the center, I've heard of the name for the longest, but how long has the center been in Nashville here?
I'm going to let Ms.
Is this the only center, or is this something that is generic?
Oasis Center was born in Nashville. It's a Nashville-based organization, and if my math is correct, we're about to celebrate our 46th year in Nashville. We were founded in 1969, a very small organization, mostly dealing with young people that were struggling with addiction and runaway situations and that sort of thing. I'm not sure how many we served back then, but given some of the information I have, we might have served 25 young people a year. And this year we'll probably serve about 2,700 young people and their families.
You mean that it's that many people involved in the center?
Sir.
Young people involved in 2,700 people involved? So you've got quite an outreach.
Yes. We have 21 different programs that we work through Oasis Center. They fall into 3 categories. Our first category is our crisis, young people that are most at risk and in crisis right now. The middle part of what we do, where Ron's program is our youth engagement and action, and that's really where we're trying to get on the front side and reach young people before it's too late, before they're desperate, before they act and do something that they regret later. And really, as I said before, all of those programs are there to empower young people, to teach them to use their voice in positive, nonviolent ways that we've seen recently during the MLK March,
Very good.
The women's rally downtown last week.
Okay, and so we're going to take this second commercial break, and we'll get back with you. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. And welcome to the final segment of the show for today. The topic is the Oasis Center, and we're talking to RJohnson and Miss Catherine Windham. And of course, let me not only welcome you back to this final segment, but to let you know that anything that you've got to say in reference to the Oasis Center, or anything, any pleas you have to make, and et cetera, some of the things that you might have wanted to say before you got here, but did not have an opportunity to say yet, I want you to say that now so that you can't leave and say that, you know, I didn't allow you to say certain things. So, but really, I want to give you the opportunity to simply freely discuss whatever you believe to be important that our audience ought to know in reference to the center. Let's start with you and then with Ms. Will.
Yeah, one of the things that I think everyone should know that, you know, the Oasis Center is there for our community. It's not just there for a selective group of people. And I really think that, you know, people should know, stop by, call, bring your young person down there. We have college access where we got young people right there on staff that will help their young person get prepared for college. We have, you know, a bunch of different outreach programs. We have the REAL program. We have the LGBTG program where we really believe in wrapping our arms around the whole person. And then the other thing I think they need to understand and know, I really would like to know, it is a safe place. We have counseling on hand right there to help you walk through some of the things that you may be going through. And at the end of the day, I think you're going to really meet people who love people when you walk into the Oasis Center.
Ms. Windham.
Well, I agree with Ron. You know, all of our programs primarily focus on three things: connecting a young person to a healthy adult, providing them a safe place, as Ron mentioned, and empowering them to make better choices as they become adults. And through all of our programming, that's really where we stay focused.
Is this, the first part, is that sort of a mentoring program? Is that what you do? Is that a part of it?
Somewhat. You know, all of our counseling team, our whole staff, even me, I'm not a counselor, but I'm expected to be, you know, a positive influence on any young person I encounter, and I take that quite seriously. And all of us are very focused. There's not a staff member there that is not their primary focus, to ensure that any person, young person we connect with, it's a positive relationship, it's a positive connection. Whether I know them, I know their name or not, you're going to get a positive greeting or response from me and the entire staff. All of the services that Oasis offers are free, which is pretty amazing to me when you consider the vast resources. As we talked about a minute ago, the Youth Engagement and Action Program, there's about 15 different ways that young people can connect with us in very positive and fun ways. Our bike workshop is an incredible program where young people can build their own bike, ride it out, it's theirs. They can navigate our streets safely, get out of the house, get good exercise. It's beautiful today. Having the opportunity to be on a bike and breathing in fresh air is really incredible. The one thing I really didn't have time to mention a minute ago was our College Connection program, as Ron mentioned. And, you know, we probably all can agree that the key to ending poverty is through education.
Education, it really is.
I know that there's some disparity out there in some of the percentages, you know, that college grads are having a hard time finding jobs. But when you look at the statistics of a college graduate versus a high school graduate and their employment ability, there's still a wide gap in who's going to get that job. So we do believe that a college education is a top priority, or a certificate or training. We don't want anyone to feel like that college is the only thing that may be for them, but some sort of training that will improve their ability to earn a good wage for their family and for themselves. So that's really kind of closes the circle on all the services that we offer. And just tremendous results. The community, the Nashville community, is very supportive of the work we do.
That's what I was thinking. Who supports this? Financially, I mean, how do you get your
great question. We have
yeah.
a very diverse, what I call funding portfolio. Some of it is through federal grants, some of it's through state grants, and some of it's through private foundations that support our work. And then a fair number of it is just checks, donations that people make. And you know, as in the marketing and development team, I often hear my $25 doesn't make a difference. I can assure you that your $25 makes a difference. We put all those $25 together and we create pretty powerful change. in our community.
And so you're serving more than 2,700
2,700 young people.
Boys and girls.
Young men and young women, ages 14 to 24. One of the things that we really focus on is meeting young people where they are. We don't expect you to come in fixed and healed and a mature young person. You may not be. You may be stuck somewhere along the way. And that's the wonderful thing about Oasis is that you are always welcome there. There are never second chances. There's third chances, fourth chances, but you've never reached your last chance with us. And I think that's a very important thing for young people to know.
And so you've been with Oasis Center for how many years?
I've been with the Oasis Center for about 5 years, but I've been working in the youth market for over 30 years. And
now, well, with all of that experience, what are some of the things that you can tell young people this morning in terms of how to change their lives or how to make their lives conform to what might be right or whatever?
I can say this here from my own experiences and some of the things that I've been teaching is I always tell my staff is the way we find a way to help young people change, one, we got to be authentic, and then we allow them to be authentic, and then we allow them to own what it is that they choose to do. But in owning what they choose to do, we try to equip them. We want to give them more tools that they can use when they find themselves in a situation that got them here. They didn't have the tools that we're going to be giving them. So when they leave us, they're going to have an array of different tools that they can use to change their life. And I think with that, if you can change a brain, you can change a person's life. You can change the way he thinks. And those are the things that we really go after. We can change the thought process. We can change the heart along the way. And that's what we have found in the real program. We've had over 400 some young people to come through that program. And you're talking about, the high 80, 90% of non-recidivism. But not only that, having parents calling and saying, what have you done to my son? We haven't done anything but prepare him and give him more tools that he used to make better decisions from what he had before he got to this place.
And they are impressed by whatever you've done in reference to getting that. Huh?
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful for that, because we teach them things such as music. Lyricology, one of our main core foods is music, the effects of music in our lives. Does music have an effect? And when we're able to help young people understand it, we're not trying to take it away, but does it have an effect? And we're just trying to help them appreciate it more and not perpetuate it more. And then when that happens, they listen to it from a different lens, different ear, with a different ear.
I think, Ms. Wyndham, Mr. Johnson came to us a long time ago. At that time, he had a program, and that's why I wanted to bring this up at this particular time, called Choices.
Choices and the Effects.
Choices and the Effects. Say something about that. We've got about a minute.
Well, I still do the choices and the effects because it's so real, so relevant, and so of this time. We are all direct derivatives of the choices we make. We are the sum total of what happens to us. So prior to doing it, that program is something that I use in the real program. It's not exactly called Choices and Effects, but it's actually used, and our young people take it to heart. They really seriously take it to heart. They own their decisions, and they understand that it does have an effect.
And so you've decided to simply dedicate your life in a real sense up in reference to helping others and dealing with young people. Is that right, Ms. Wyndham?
Yeah, he's a superhero. He didn't wear his cape today, but he's a superhero.
Very good. And of course, I think that you're playing a very, very important part in helping to organize things in terms of marketing and et cetera, because that's an important
It really is an honor to do it. To be part of something that's just having such a vast impact in our community and nationwide. Last night, Obama talked in his State of the Union address about college opportunities, and Tennessee is one of those primary places where that's coming from, and some of that came from the Oasis Center originally. So it's incredible impact that locally, statewide, and nationwide now.
Very good. Let me thank the two of you over the last half minute that we have here, Mr. Johnson, Ms. Wyndham, for bringing about excuse me, that excellent information. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next time for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning. Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is the African American experience and slavery, or the African American heritage and slavery. And to talk about the African American heritage and slavery, we have with us our guest, Miss Vivian Harris. Ms. Harris, let me welcome you to the show this morning, and or Vivian, let me welcome you to the show this morning and tell you how delighted we are to have you here with us, and to have you to give us some information about your background, your experience, and some of the things that were important in terms of bringing you to us this morning. And we'll take about the first 6 minutes of this program to do so, and then we'll have a 2-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about slavery and the African American heritage, bringing in as much information dealing with the 2 books that you've produced, and then we'll be able to end this for the day. Let's start off with your background, education, and experiences.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. I'm most appreciative of being a guest on your show. I am from the Midwest, and I was born in Carbondale, Illinois. But I also grew up in Missouri, not far from Ferguson, not far from Gary, Indiana, and also Indianapolis, Indiana. So I grew up in all 3 states as a child. My father was a principal, teacher, and coach, and so he was forced to move to all 3 states due to desegregation. And so, but I loved it. I loved moving, and I was always interested in meeting other people. My father's people were from Mississippi. His mother was from Mississippi, and so was his father. People, they were from Mississippi also. And my grandmother on my father's side, she worked and sent 3 children to college at the same time, and they all went to Southern Illinois University. She purchased a house for them because they could not live in the dormitories, so they lived in a house. The 3 of them lived in one house, and she rented out the rest of the house to students who were African.
She must have been some kind of woman, maybe.
And can you imagine, you know? And so she sent 10 children to college, you know, so that's remarkable for a woman who only had a 6th grade education. My mother's people, my mother was from Kentucky, and I went to Kentucky State University. At the time while I was there, I did not know that my grandmother had also attended Kentucky State University, and also her sister, and they were wealthy because my great-grandmother was, not only was she a landowner, she was also on oil wells. So they lived an entirely, I guess, wonderful life.
Independent lives.
Yes, yes, you know. And interestingly, I found out that my great-grandmother's husband was a Civil War veteran, so he was able to acquire $12 a month for his pension, so they live quite well. I decided to write these books because my brother, Walter Green, who lives in Miami, he's our chief archivist. And he makes sure that we have our family reunions every year. So I wanted him to have a documented account of our family history. Also, I had an 93-year-old aunt who lived in Portland, Oregon, who I interviewed several times, and I wanted her to have the book as soon as possible so that she could understand and know exactly what had transpired during her grandparents' and great-grandparents' lives.
And so in a real sense, you've researched all of this information, and so you've got a real story you believe that you can tell dealing with African American heritage, slavery and African American heritage. And so what we want you to do after this first commercial break, when we come back during the second segment is to tell us a story
Sure.
in terms of how these books related to the information that you're dealing with, and quote some of the books or whatever. But that's what we want to try to get as much of this information as we possibly can during the second and third segment. Is that
Okay.
would that be the way
No
you would like to do it?
problem. I would love
think
to.
that would give us some excellent information, because I think that you've got some good. You got a good-looking book.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I
And I'm sure that
appreciate
you
that.
have the information. And so after our first commercial break, we'll come back and we'll give you an opportunity to talk about slavery and the African-American heritage. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Miss Vivian Harris, and she's given us some information in reference to her background, education, and some of her experience.